parts. I can't overstate the importance of planning, and planning in a way so that you've broken down the tasks that you're asking students to do, because the more a teacher can do that, the easier it is for kids to move through the tasks. I can't overstate the importance of planning. The more successful they feel, planning in a way so that you've broken down the tasks that you're asking to the class, the better they'll do. Another thing also I think that you can do is you're spending a lot of time individual. You to self-regulate.
Jackie suggests using positive narration to engage the whole class instead of focusing exclusively on individuals.
You could write on the board the following beautiful, smart, wonderful students have cleared their desk. And you just write the names down, and I can assure you in 3 seconds all the other desks will be cleared, and you don't have to say a word. They'll want their names there. And if somebody isn't doing it, you can go over and say, don't you want your name on the board? Hurry up and do that. But you're doing great for a first-year teacher. I cried my whole first year. Went home and cried. People don't realize if you want to do a good job, it's very hard. So it's really good to meet you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the feedback. Great to meet you as well. Thanks. Thanks so much.
Two weeks later, Lilia has begun to implement Jackie's advice.
Sorry. I forgot to use the PowerPoint because I was getting everything else. Oh my goodness, so many guys. Who wants to read it out loud? Jessica, it's on your hand first.
Lilia has asked her mentor, Andrea Pompey, to observe how the class is responding to these new techniques.
How do you think it went today, the lesson?
Overall, it went well. It sounds kind of silly, but it felt so much more fun.
I know you met with an expert from Columbia, and so what are some things that you've been implementing based on what you heard from her?
I would say my big takeaways are that I really want to start planning kind of more purposefully and really thinking about each minute. At first it was tough to transition because I was chunking everything down, including like the do now time and the next introduction and things like that. But after that, once we got in the flow of things, it seemed to be going well.
So we're going to do a quick introduction to the Roman gods. All right, finish up your do now quickly. We're going to have about 1 more minute. All right, who would like to share? We got all sorts of cool powers going around today. Shakira, start us off. So I'm handing out a piece of paper. We're going to read this story together. I'm going to read it out loud. Will you follow along?
I did like always being able to have something to move on to the next time, like not feeling like I needed to stretch something out longer than it needed to be. I could just let something have its due time and then we could move on to the next thing. Rather than, just people just kind of getting bored.
So how did you use positive narration today in that lesson?
I would just mention like, oh, I see Freedom's filled in his top line of the chart, so everyone knows that their top line of the chart, if they're not there, they should be moving on it, things like that. And that just kind of gave people who need a little bit of extra time the time to finish without feeling rushed, and then also reminded people if they're getting off task what their job was.
I see Mari looking at the piece of paper on this side. I see Diana looking at the piece of paper. Jessica has the piece of paper out on her desk. Stephen, I need you to stand up straight, please.
Lilia also used a game to engage her students during test prep.
We're going to have 10 minutes for a bingo game, and I refill the prize bag if we get going. So let's get this going.
So how did it work with your efforts to engage students with the bingo game?
It was really funny.
Really?
They got really into it. And it was kind of a nice way to review what we had been talking about. So there was a lot of participation, and they were asking for more questions at the end.
We gotta move on.
I'm really glad that things went well. And I even noticed today when I went in that the class just felt better. There's a better feeling to it. There was a positive feeling to it. When you said read silently and everyone read silently, I thought that was awesome. And everyone was focused. They were doing what you expected them to do. So I think you're definitely moving in the right direction. So I'm really glad at the progress that you're making.
Thanks. Thanks for your help.
Create a consistent classroom routine. Use physical proximity to head off potential disruptions. Use individual strategies to target students who act out. Use group strategies like positive narration to modify behavior of the entire class. Use nonverbal cues to redirect students. Use games and competition to engage students.
No, that's not it. They're part of it. Steven.
Break down lessons into their smallest component parts.
Republic. Yes.
Grammarly helps make your writing clear and concise.
Lilia Vreeland is a first-year teacher at the Urban Assembly School for Applied Math and Science in the Bronx.
I grew up in Massachusetts in a really small town. I knew I loved working with kids, and there's just so much I think that needs to be done.
Lilia teaches social studies and language arts to 6th graders.
It's a very kind of heterogeneous class, I guess you could say, with many different students on very different levels with various needs. When everything is going perfectly in a class, I can't think of a better job in the world. But when it's not going well, it's probably the most exhausting, frustrating thing I've ever done.
One of Lilia's biggest challenges is maintaining control of her class when student animosities erupt.
A lot of students just have a lot of trouble interacting with each other positively. Really getting them to focus and use that energy the way they need to has been the biggest challenge.
Lilia has also noticed that student behavior deteriorates during test prep.
They've done test prep for a couple years in their other classes and their other schools, so they've